Hi, I'm Kathy, and 89% of you have more functional and healthy brain tissue in your head than I do. So I'm doing my best to keep it together. This is a blog I was asked to keep by my neurologist, and I would like to thank him for that. This is a place where I come to talk to you, my fellow MS patients, about my perspective on multiple sclerosis, because not only do I have it and have had it since probably before my diagnosis at the age of 22, my mother also had it diagnosed in 1971, and she never got treated. So today's topic is something very close to my heart, which is disease-modifying therapies. Seems like a strange thing to hold dear. But the reason I do is because there was nothing available for my mother. One of my constant frustrations is seeing or hearing newly diagnosed patients who are resisting going on a disease-modifying therapy. I want to tell you to be far more afraid of what MS will do to you than what any of these disease-modifying therapies are likely to do to you. People forget. They're seeing people like me who were diagnosed, by the way, haircut, too dark, I know, but people like me who were diagnosed in the late 80s were the first people who were then going to have disease-modifying therapies available. Some things that they know about disease-modifying therapies now, after the ECTRIMS conference especially, and the research that was gathered from several studies, they know that the disease-modifying therapies slow progression and change the course of your experience with multiple sclerosis. You don't ever have to be bedridden, hand-fed, have your butt wiped by your husband, and seize yourself to death like my mother did. She also had extremely severe brain atrophy. Towards the end of her life, she made no sense. She didn't know what to do with food that was put in front of her. About the last thing she understood how to do was brush her own teeth. We could put a toothbrush in her hand, put some toothpaste on the toothbrush, and she would move her head back and forth and brush her own teeth. And that was the last thing that she had before she spent 7 days or 11 days in one long seizure until she died. Slowly, over the course of my childhood and adolescence and adulthood, I watched her go from an intelligent, vibrant, ambitious, and skilled person into a completely quadriplegic, completely helpless, completely mindless and brainless and non-functional human. And that was horrific. And if I could give any part of my life to her to have made that better, I would have done it. I was the lucky one. Yes, I have multiple sclerosis, and I consider that lucky because some of the other diagnoses that they were putting my way at the beginning of my MS journey were pretty ugly things I didn't want to have, like ALS. MRI technology was just beginning. They weren't really nearly as good as they are now with the 3D mapping, etc. And when I found out I had MS, my first thought was fantastic. I know this disease. My mom still managed to live a functional life. I put a video on here about my incredible MS mom, and I encourage you to watch that. But I also encourage you to watch the videos that describe my mom's horrific decline. And the reason that I'm bringing this up now is because we talked about it in an MS-specific exercise class that I'm involved in, where we work on things like balance, core strength, our limb strength, pulling weights, push-ups, all sorts of crazy things like that that I never thought I'd be able to do and I certainly would not have been able to do without a disease-modifying therapy, or the ones that I've been on, because I was in the escalating time of disease-modifying therapies, where they started you low and then moved you up if that didn't work, and then moved you up. I wish I had had something as strong as Ocrevus right from the very beginning. That's the drug I'm on now. And if I had known that I'm about to lose insurance at the end of 2020, I would have asked for Lemtrada, because maybe I would have gotten both of my initial doses in by the time that my insurance ends, and I would at least have some protection from ending up like my mom. So the other piece of news that I want to share with you, aside from don't be less afraid of this disease and what it can do than you are of disease. Wait, I got that backwards. This is what happens when you have 89% of people have more brain than you do. What I want to say is stop being more afraid of disease-modifying therapies than you are of the horrors of the monster that this disease used to be. You're seeing me at age 54, functional, talking. By this point in my mom's life, she was a mess. And even if you're not a mess right now and you think you're fine without a disease-modifying therapy, the disease process is still happening. And what's happening, just like with me, is plaques are forming. They're turning into eventually scar tissue and black holes in your brain and causing your brain to shrink 10 times faster than the general population. And mine is probably even more accelerated. So stop being afraid of DMTs. Be afraid of progressing multiple sclerosis. Get on one that's high level, one that works, one that will keep you functional. Because despite the fact that I can still, move head, shoulders, knees, toes, my thinking is not tremendously clear. My speech is sometimes garbled. I have no executive function, which is why every time you see this room, it looks exactly the same. Because I have a problem with starting and finishing things and doing the tasks in the right order. Okay, that's not what I wanted to talk about, though. The second point that I wanted to make is completely gone from my brain. Oh, no. Okay. I also have started a second YouTube channel that is called MS Political Action. That's MS Political Action. If you're a person who's concerned about the state of healthcare in the United States, or who believes, like one of the viewers of one of my previous videos, that there's no such thing as deserving healthcare, that literally if you can't pay for it, you can't have it. If that is a channel which would interest you, then I would suggest maybe starting here by watching Pre-Existing Conditions and the Joys of the U.S. Healthcare System, which is another video I've made. But then join there, and let's throw down. Let's discuss it. Let's talk to people, even if you think, and there were 4 or 5, 6 dislikes on that video. I really want to hear from those people. I want to hear who deserves healthcare and what you would do if I were your child. If you were like my father, 83 years old, and you had a 54-year-old daughter who couldn't help you at all, who you had to still take care of, is that what you would do? Would you just let your child languish with you and take care of them, wipe their butt, their nose, all that kind of stuff? So let's start on MS Political Action. I'm going to make a separate video to put there today so that the channel will officially be open. I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll join me, maybe even adding links to your own videos about it. Certainly expressing your opinions. I'm very interested to find out if anyone can convince me that there is a person in the world who doesn't deserve health care. So those are today's topics. A, get on a disease-modifying therapy, and B, let's duke it out. Let's find out who thinks that people don't deserve health care. And maybe they can tell us what they would do if they lost theirs. the response where I was told I don't deserve health care, I think she mentioned that 3 times, that I want health care I don't deserve. And she also talked about a lot of the illness in her family, and I talk about in that video that I think it's morally wrong for anyone to make a profit off of our illness, but apparently she's fine with that. She's fine with her husband being in a wheelchair, paying for his care, and having board members and CEOs and stockholders make money from that. She's fine with her mother having diabetes and paying $600 a month for her health insurance, plus you know, her supplies that aren't covered. And that someone somewhere who has nothing to do with that gets cut of it, gets to dip their hand in the money stream and pull out a wad of cash. And that should be, I think, going for the health care of her family members. And I want to hear how we should be doing it differently, how we could be doing it better, how much Canadians have love their system or hate it. I'd love to hear from some Canadians who have MS who are completely frustrated and think that there is nothing that their National Health Service is really doing right. So let's go there and do those political conversations, because I would rather keep this channel for information. And one of the biggest pieces of information I want you to take away from today's video is that MS itself is terrifying. It's a monster. And disease-modifying therapies are your golden sword to keep from progressing. No matter where you are, no matter how much you've already lost, you can still prevent yourself from progressing. Thank you for listening to me rant and rave once again. And I'll just say my name is Kathy. I'm not a medical professional or an insurance industry agent or a political activist being paid by anybody. So, you know, take your advice from where you want. I think that maybe I'm worth listening to because my whole life has been about multiple sclerosis. If you go back in some of my videos, you'll certainly see that. So have a great day. Think about preserving your brain, because I want you all to be living your best life since you're stuck with multiple sclerosis. Let's do it. We can do this together. Bye for now.